So I did want to give you guys my honest review of the NASCAR playlist because I have went over the recent new playlists that come out with every update, so I definitely wanted to go over this one. Now, before you do say anything, this one will end up having 9 events in it. Basically, it's technically 10 because there is indeed a secret event at the end of this one that pops up after you do the 9 of them, which I actually thought was pretty dope. So, a quick gist of the entire playlist when it comes to the events anyway is you pretty much go in there as kind of someone who hasn't really raced before, a newer type of race. You jump into a race and you purposely do end up failing it at the end of the event. In the first event that you do end up doing, you pretty much, fail it. It kind of reminded me of Need for Speed Most Wanted 2005, where the car had the oil come out of it. At least that's what I thought of anyway. But you pretty much have to fail this, then you crash the car and you stand there while the other people celebrate and they win. And then you pretty much have to start off from the bottom by racing an older NASCAR. You pretty much go there, the guy's like, hey dude, I know where to start you at. You pretty much go in there and you do some events. And you also kind of do like a starter race. You get used to the NASCAR. Then you do another race in the same area against other racers. Then you start getting into the higher end NASCARs. You do some of these street events, which, speaking of that though, I also wanted to mention not every single race will end up being on the NASCAR track that's in the new playground. Some of them will also be on Oahu. The race you will end up doing in the older NASCARs is kind of on the left part of the map by where you'd see the Hoonigan Island thingy. Almost forgot about it because I kind of did. But you'll have to do a race and also a test race over there. Then you pretty much have to move into Honolulu. Then of which you'll end up doing a race there that's also on the road, kind of like a closed course type of thing that you'd see on the road itself. It's around 8 laps, so I have to again use the old NASCAR, worrying about your tire pressure and also your fueling in basically most of the events in the entire playlist. So you'll most likely get used to the entire mechanic of that, I would say, when doing this playlist, as you realize when to use, fueling and stuff correctly and going into the pits when you need to and all that good stuff. But right after that, though, you'll then end up moving into the bigger, or I guess you could say the newer NASCARs, and you'll see yourself doing some regular type of races that don't have tire wear or anything. You'll then have to race on a small course around the track and over there. Then you also end up driving into the playground with the NASCAR and also going around the playground with some of the events. And in a way, though, I guess they kind of are giving you a NASCAR tour, kind of, the name of the entire playlist of what they were showing before. But some of the events will have jumps in them. They'll be at nighttime, some will be in the rain, different settings and all that when you are racing the NASCARs. But do keep in mind, guys, though, not every single race will have the tire wear, but the end of the entire playlist, though, a lot of those races will have it after you do some of the nighttime and jumping and doing some of the weirder races and all that. You also even see a jet flying by in one of them, which I actually thought was very cool. I was not expecting that. You're also in cockpit view, kind of seeing the jet fly by. Really thought that was a pretty dope touch. But the end races, though, are around 12 laps, so they are pretty dang long. And I noticed there's multiple races in this entire playlist that are around 8 to 12 laps. So do keep in mind some of them might take around maybe 6 to 8 minutes in multiple of the entire events in the playlist. Now, when it does come to a lot of questions I have been seeing people ask online or what some of the concerns were from players regarding, let's say, the crashing physics or, the entire overall new physics of the NASCARs, I did notice that they are obviously different in the entire playlist thing when you are on the tracks and all that. For one, the crashing physics, guys, I'm going to be real, they remind me heavily of Demolition Derby cars, okay? Or the crazy crash physics they were showing in the trailers that you'll see in the playlist, that probably won't be the entire crash scene that you'll most likely see in there. Like, you won't see cars flying everywhere, parts flying off of them, and insane damage. I did notice it's a little bit minimum on the damage in some areas, but again, it's similar to the Demolition Derby, which I kind of did expect in a way. Now, the other part of this, though, a lot of players are wondering about the physics of the NASCARs when you're not doing the playlist. This is pretty simple. The physics that you see in crashing and the slipstreaming and the craziness that you see in the playlist or doing the events, that is obviously not when you are driving the cars around in regular. So do keep that in mind. Yes, they damage like Demolition Derby vehicles, but you will not be seeing the crazy physics. I thought that would have been very cool if they added that on to the playground itself, but do stay tuned for a video I have about the playground review, because that's a little bit different than this one, I would say. But the thing is, though, I feel like the events were honestly pretty dang fun, man. I did enjoy them. The only gripe I had was I kind of wish there was more of them. Oh, and one more thing. I understand there's probably limitations to the engine of the game. I also understand we're still on last-gen consoles, which is probably a big reason why they can't do it. But, dude, I was really hoping for 20 AI racers in the events. That would have been so crazy, bro, seeing 20 different NASCAR racers in the AI events instead of 8. I felt like 8 was kind of a disappointment, if I'm being honest. I was honestly really hoping for more racers in there. Like, I understand why they did it. Probably, again, engine things, and they probably can. I understand that stuff. But it would have been really cool to probably see more racers in there. I also kind of think players would have been pretty happy to see, 20, 25 racers in there. That would have been wild, dude. I was kind of expecting that, but 8, I will be real and say that was a disappointment, especially NASCAR having, I think it's 40 racers, sometimes 41. I obviously know this game could not handle all of that going on, but man, just think about that for a minute, bro. Just think about that. As I did say earlier, though, there is also a special event you will be able to do once you do end up unlocking the Henson NASCAR, which is the special one at the end of the playlist. You kind of get a tiny tour of the entire playground island, which, funnily enough, is pretty much the only race in the entire playlist that takes you around the island, bro. Okay, it is pretty much the only one that does it. Gives you a tour of most of the roads in it, which I was kind of surprised about. There's basically nothing else, which again, I will talk about this in the video probably tomorrow. Maybe I might even do this one on Saturday as well for the playground review thing, but I was a bit surprised this was the only race that took you around the playground. It was pretty cool, and I was happy to see a 10th event show up in there. That was honestly a nice change, and I thought it was like, oh, look, a special event that showed up. Maybe we'll see more of that in future playlists. Overall, though, I did honestly enjoy most of the events. I feel like the NASCAR idea thing they had was honestly really cool, bro. I think is a very good idea that was definitely implemented pretty dang well. More AI racers probably would have been dope. And I also kind of wish that the other motorsport playlist races had a better pit thing like how this game does. But obviously we all do know that will end up happening. But overall though, the events in the playlist were pretty dope. Now, we also know playlists in this game have more stuff to them, and this one kind of threw a loop at a lot of players. Yes, you'll have the playlist challenges, guys. Expect a playlist guide coming. I am currently working on that video for all of the challenges in that. We'll also have the photo ops, the skills, and all that good stuff, but this one will end up having rivals in it. Now, I'm going to be 100% honest here because you all know I am a real critiquer here and being real on what I say. I'm not going to like sugarcoat things or, oh my gosh, it's the best thing ever. No, I have to be real. The rivals were honestly a big miss for me, bro. I really did enjoy the events. They were so dang good, but the rivals just felt like kind of an L to me. I'm gonna be real on that. I might even talk about that in a separate video, but I probably could just explain why I think that is. In ways, I was kind of expecting the rivals to be new races, right? I was kind of expecting how we had the dogs versus cat things with the chase squad thing back in the day where you had more racers that were scattered around the map. But, no, dude, the rivals, you will have to do stunt things in every single one of them. I thought maybe one of the rivals was races, but no, you have to do these stunt challenges, which, by the way, seem to rotate from the exact same ones, some of which might be, let's say you have to reach 120 miles an hour, go 500 yards with no collision, drive zero point 0.6 miles on asphalt, or, do the precision thing, jump 5 times, or, go on off-road or something, don't hit anything. It's kind of like the same things. Oh, empty your nitrous all the way was another one when it is full. It's kind of the same ones basically rotating. You do 4 of those, they then go to the next thing, you do another 4, you do that 3 times, and that is pretty much it. Once you get to the main 2 bosses, or there's 2 of those after the other 4, those I think have 4 of 4, so you have to do more of the little challenges in there. It's 4, but you have to do an extra set. Then also the final main boss, you have to do 5 in that one, guys, okay? So I did this, and when I got it done, the first thing I thought was, I don't even want to do these again. I honestly just did not have a desire. I would rather see more races. I was excited to see Rally, too. I'm like, oh, a Rally race, finally! We're having more than 6 Rally races since launch, bro. Since launch. But no, we have to go do these, little scoring things with the cars and do, I don't know. I'd rather have races off-road for the rally cars. When I saw this, I'm like, man, people aren't going to be the biggest fans of these, bro. And wait till these show up in summits. I bet somebody will end up finding some type of exploit for them, guys. But I'm being real, though. I wasn't the biggest fan of the rivals. I really do feel like the rivals were a huge miss in this. They probably could have added another way of races or something with the NASCARs that wasn't this. I don't know. I just think people might not be the biggest fan. They're spread all over the map, by the way. I think there's only one in the NASCAR area. That's, what I mean by that is the new track. The rest of them are spread out on Oahu, on Maui and stuff. And I'm sure players probably notice early on, but once you get there, you kind of let the bar go up, you start it up, you do the entire stunt thing. What's kind of hilarious to me, though, is I remember when the Red Bull update came out, and there's a few of these style events in that playlist, and, Yeah, people weren't the biggest fan of them, but they decided to make every single rival like that. I don't know. I'm just going to be real, guys. I think this was kind of a big L, at least for the rival department. Definitely not the biggest fan of those. Do let me know what y'all think in the comments. I kind of think most players will do them and probably never touch them again. That's just at least what I'm getting, unless there's like a crazy exploit and you can make a ton of money, but I don't know. Now, besides the rivals to me being an L, though, we also now have to talk about the custom mode, guys, which this custom mode I feel like will take players away from the rivals very quick, because there's a few things I noticed about this very early on. A lot of people are saying that if you go into the custom mode, that the tire wear and the fuel and all that stuff only matters in the main playlist for the NASCARs, and I can confidently tell you that is incorrect, okay? If you go into the custom mode, what I have noticed is all the races on the track that are on the street, you know how the one was on the street, you just have nitrous. If you're on the track, though, you will have tire wear nitrous on any of the class vehicles you use on this. I did tested it in the street car in this, and I had tire wear and all that. Now, the one thing I noticed, though, with the fueling is I think the fueling is set to just being like normal almost, okay? I don't think it's set to like the vehicle you're using, or some cars use more fuel. I haven't really had a chance to really test this out, so I can't confirm it, but it's something I was noticing. But I did jump into an Alpha GP car and stuff. You also have the slipstreaming animation and stuff like that. I don't know if the crashing is the same thing as well, because when I did the street race, guys, the crashing physics you see in NASCAR are not there if you wanted that. That is not a thing at all. The crashing physics are gone. You have the slipstreaming thing there as well, same with Alpha GP. For the Alpha GP, I was purposely trying to crash some of the AI, and they were like sliding out kind of weirdly, almost like they had the physics. I tried to crash myself into a wall and different things, and the physics for me, though, just weren't the same as you'd see in the NASCAR playlist itself, but that honestly does make sense. But at least you will have the tire wear and also the fueling on there. That is something a lot of players were wondering about. I think that will definitely mix up the overall custom mode a lot. Now, with that, though, you'll also have to use some oddball classes, guys, and that does include motocross, which honestly I kind of laughed at. If you're doing a 12-lap race, for example, you will probably have to refuel, I'm thinking, about 5 times, because the bikes only have about 2.5 gallons of fuel. So if you're doing the custom mode, bro, with the bikes, be expecting for this to most likely take, I'd say, 10 plus minutes at least. If you are using a motorcycle, you have to pit a bunch of times. You probably have to get tires. Luckily, you only have 2 tires to change there, so they'll be quick. But the fueling will most likely be one of the biggest issues. At least there is an option to use those, but I'm going to be real and say that it is cool to see the motorcycles and other classes that are used in the custom mode, but essentially you're playing the exact same race you did with the cup cars, obviously using the other classes to hope you get prestige tickets and all that, guys. But I have to be honest and say that I wish we'd rather have real rally races and also real motocross races that would show up. You know, the ones with the jumps that we saw in the Crew 2 with Rallycross, and also, you know, more rally events in general. And on top of that, proper motocross races would honestly be very cool, because I don't know about y'all, but I don't want to spend 10 minutes going around a track racing a motorcycle and having to get tires and, you know, refuel it 5 times around the same circle, and then do that with like a demolition derby car. I don't know, dude. I just, it doesn't sound that fun to me, if I'm being real with you. Some of the other classes, though, for sure will probably be very entertaining for most players. Street Tier 1, you know, racing, hypercar, Tier 2, all those classes I would say will probably be very entertaining in most of these events, because now you have the fueling system, which again, I think it's like a set system, but at least it's there, tire wear. I was pretty surprised to see this, as I originally thought the main events in the playlist would probably have that and not this, but I was very happy to see the custom mode adopted most of the features. I say most because the crashing physics aren't there from the main playlist, at least the events anyway. Overall, though, guys, I would say for me, the main events in this playlist were actually really fun. I enjoyed the track racing. I kind of want to go back in and do them and just mess around. I would say the refueling system and all that is good, but I also kind of would have preferred maybe 20 player, you know, 20, I should say 20 AI racers in there, not player. 20 AI racers in there, maybe a 20 or 30 lap race. Yes, I'm insane, but I would enjoy a 20 or 30 lap race like that on this track with like 20 AI, bro. That would be so fun. And to be honest, I would probably say that might end up being the biggest gripe with players, is they probably just want more racers on the track, and if you're similar to me, you probably want more or at least longer races on these tracks. That would have honestly been really cool. And as I mentioned before, I'm going to be honest again, And my review of the entire Rivals is, I'm just going to say it, it was a big L. I'm not a big fan of it. I think that was a huge miss adding those type of events. I really don't think players would like them, guys. I'm going to be honest there. I don't think players are going to like them. They'll do them, and they will most likely never touch those again. The custom mode, though, will make up for some of that a lot, I think, because you will be able to have some of the main things from the NASCAR thing. You can use other classes, and it will add on to the fun and like variety and stuff. So at least that will end up helping. Overall, I will say this playlist has definitely been a lot more solid. I would definitely say from previous playlists having some cool mechanics and different things in there, some fun events. But I gotta admit though, if you're gonna add the rivals, dude, just put different races in there, bro. Okay, just put different races. Get away from the stunt style. I don't think people honestly like them. Do let me know what you all think about the new playlist in the comments below. I am really curious to know your thoughts on this one. Overall, guys, I feel like it has a lot of positives, but at the same time of that, there are some negatives about it that I think other players might go, why would you do this, or why can't you add that to it? That will most likely be a big thing, because I feel like some parts of the playlist were great, but also some of it was honestly a miss.